I found this awesome quote: stories are the thinking highway of Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, the beginning of mankind. Storytelling is with humankind since the beginning, since our friends, our kin, the caveman. The caveman start telling stories. Stories about nature, about saber tiger, how if they don't hide, they can be lunch for them, and how they can hunt a big mammoth for having good meal. So they start telling stories, and the stories then evolve to explain things they couldn't give an explanation, scientific explanation. So stories are everywhere. Nowadays, we still have stories. We live with stories. We grew up with stories. So I have a question. Are stories vehicles for implicit learning? Take note from these two questions, because at the end, I'm going to ask you for the answer. So first question, I repeat it again. Are stories vehicles for implicit learning, or do they provide raw material for an explicit focus on language? I repeat again because it's a little bit long. Are stories vehicles for implicit learning, or do they provide raw material for an explicit focus on language? So please write down on a piece of paper, on your laptop, on your PC, or whatever you're using, and let's find together this answer. I would love to you guys to share those answers to me. Let's continue. What makes a good story? That's a good question. It depends. Of course, this is about the taste. But I'm going to tell you about some technical things that a story must have. The minimum quantity. Okay. Give me a sec. It's charging. Okay. So, of course, opening hook. Somebody answered that. We need to be hooked by the story. I'm going to give you a short example of a hook. It's a clear day, and it is cold, freezing cold, minus 23 Celsius degrees. But the mountain climber doesn't feel how cold it is, and she doesn't feel how tired she is. She's just happy, extremely happy. She's on a mountaintop, and it is not her first time up here. She was here before, and now she's back. So that's a very good hook. Of course, this is depends on the taste, but it's a good example. We need a very good, big, and pointy hook of the story to get attached to it. But in some cases, the hook is not so good. We have to be realistic on that. But we have the theme, moral message, punchline, the payoff. The main thing to remember about how a story ends is that it should stimulate, satisfy our listeners or our viewers. Sometimes the opening is what to expect. What are we waiting for? The story is getting bored. But then the theme start develop. So that's a good example. So we have a slow and steady wins the race. I gave you the answer ahead. Which story gives this message? Of course, the hare and the tortoise. This is a message personally I remember since I was a little kid, and my mom read it to me. So we're going to remember all the time, fast is not the best way. Sometimes it's the worst way because you commit more mistakes. Okay, next, a good plot. A good progression of individual incidents which lead to an effective payoff. Types of basic plots: overcoming the monster, yes, a big enemy, antagonist, rags to riches, a poor guy, a poor girl, that with hard work and good chance, they become rich. The quest, we're searching for new lands, a vast and precious land. Voyage and return, going somewhere else, outer space. Yes, now this is outer space. 3 centuries ago were sea travel, comedy, tragedy, rebirth, like the phoenix. Sometimes this is very good, that a person can born again. This feeling is good because and as you can see, all this, even though it's about fiction, is about real life. Belief and trust. A good story has to be believable. It doesn't matter if it's fiction 100%, and it's about characters you have never remembered, like Star Wars, for example. Or fiction story with human, but the story is so fictional, like Matrix. Yes, someone that we are living a life that is not our life. And here we have my friend Morpheus trying to say to Neo, red pill, and you go back to your Matrix life. Blue pill, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, blue pill, you're going to know what is the Matrix. So our job as a storyteller is to allow our listeners to suspend their desire for absolute truth and enter into the world that we are offering them, okay? So to get in that part. And of course, we need to have some strong characters, very strong characters. The storyteller or the teacher on this case, or you as a dad or as a mom, or as a big brother, or as an uncle, aunt, doesn't matter, actually like the story. You need to like it. You need to have passion for it to be able to tell with any enthusiasm. I tried to do that with That for Sale. And I think I did. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, with this beautiful book. Okay, it doesn't appear, yes. Which one? One of my favorite of comic, Batman. But as well, I can say one of my favorite antagonists, the Joker. Smart guy, always on the move, he never shows what our true feelings are. That's why he's almost unbeatable for Batman. How do you choose a good story for your class? Students' interest, very good, Catherine, Andrea. Jesus Garcia, actually, that's a good question, asking them, okay, that's a good option. Depending on my students' interest, Angelica Maria, good. Nubia Mendez, according to the topic we're working on. Alexandra Bolaños, closely related to my students. What is fashionable? Also, Angelica. Bertha, according to their interest level of language, very good. English level, very important. Lisa Kelly, thematic study. Nubia Mendez, but not grammarly focused, very important. Maria Carbo, depending on what we're working. Janice Jaramillo, they have to feel related somehow, at least at the beginning. Sure, I agree with all of you. Sometimes our institutions that we work for, when I'm talking about teachers, they give us a syllables. Edwin Duque, using uncommon topics. I love that. They give us some topics we can use. Gustavo Riveros, the best way is to tell them the story with something that makes them fall in love. Beautiful, very poetic. Joana Rodriguez, something interesting for them. What I was telling you, sometimes teachers were forced to a specific topic, which is good, but at the same time is bad. Clemencia says, age, interest, type of text we are working on, and language level next slide. Very good. Bolmar Ochoa, to be taught in language that matches the way that the intended audience communicates. So they don't need to spend the time interpreting and do a glossary for them. Very good. All of them, and if you continue on writing down, they're acceptable and they're true. Sometimes, as I told you, they give us some specific topics, but it depends the audience, 100%. If you're a parent, you're going to read to your kids, you know your kids, what they like to do. So let's talk about how to find a good story for your class. Let's begin with the petite, with the little ones. First thing, attractive cover, and be full attractive illustrations. But guys, I'm going to tell you the truth. Don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes the cover is beautiful, but the topic is boring. sometimes, and the kids are not hooked to it and they don't want to, and we lost our time planning, and parents lost the money on the books, etc., etc. Of course, in this age is very, I recommend a lot illustrations. Okay, they have to have good illustrations. Let me see if, yes, they appear. This is the book I read to you, and they have beautiful illustrations. Let me give you an example very fast. I cannot show. Oh my God, it's because of the. Okay, but I hope you can see it. Another good example for these people, for these tiny people, are big books. Yes, like in the picture. Yes, like a reading corner, the kids on the floor, having a good time, having a little bit of snacks so they can play, they can participate, they can be on the story. Right level language for your class. I cannot ask the little ones to understand a book that I do, for example. Simple language is a childish choice. That's a mistake I committed a lot. Sometimes I believe, when I was a teacher in high school, I used to believe I'm not going to read this story to the kids because the language is too simple for them and they're old and they're getting bigger and they're going to think they're for the children. So no, analyze it. It depends on the level of the students. Make up your own story. This is very good. Sometimes we can create, put some magic into the story, put this and this, like when we're cooking. Yeah, the same, we can put some stories. You just listen to the story already, it was a short one. Imagine in a class, what about if you ask the students to put something, another ingredient? What about you guys putting another ingredient? Okay, let's go to the other one. Do you remember this movie? If somebody does, write to me, please. Good. Yes, Soraya says, but what is the name? What is the name of the movie? Okay, I'm going to read to you when I'm in a specific spot. Younger teens. This is a very demanding audience. Let me tell you. Okay, sorry, I got too fast. Hero-like human qualities. Like this, that's why I show. They don't want, sometimes they want superheroes, of course, but in the majority of them, they want a hero-like human, like them, like kids, that they have a big issue and they got over it and they want to experience and they want to be part of it. Jorge Escalante paid forward. Yes, sir, you're right. The Fifth Sense is another movie, Volmar, and it's not for these kids. It's a little bit scary. Paid forward, very good. Okay, I'm going to share this about Leonardo. Says there is something important to talk about. If you want your kids to love to read, even the simple and the shortest books, you must to love read too. Very good, and I agree 100%. If you don't love reading, what are you going to teach? Where is your passion? Where is your love? Good. So another thing, another quality that is important. They're in the romantic thinking phase. That's why Here Like Human are very connected. That's why we have the example of Peter Jackson, we have the Time Capsule, and we have the Diary of the Wimpy Kid. They're very romantic, they want peace, they want everybody to feel happy in their homes. They don't want to be disturbed, but they want to be lovely, but they don't want to grow up, but they want to be little kids. So they're in that phase, no? But that's a romantic thinking phase as well, because they're trying, they're, how can I say, they're getting the voyage of love. Yes, they're starting to know their taste. Not only in romantic sense, but in what they like, their hobbies, their passions. Good. Real life stories and traditional tales. That's why I chose Percy Jackson, which combines both tradition, story, Greek story. I love that kind of literature, and a nowadays kid. A story where they can see themselves. like the Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And I'm going to give you an example, a little bit of reading for these kids. And you're going to guess what type of book is. September, Tuesday. First of all, let me get something straight. This is a journal, not a diary. I know what it says on the cover, but when mom went out to buy this thing, I specifically told her to get one that didn't say diary on it. Great. All I need is for some jerk to catch me carrying this book around and get the wrong idea. The other thing I want to clear up right away is that this was mom's idea, not mine. But if she thinks I'm going to write down my feelings in here or whatever, she's crazy. So just don't expect me to be all dear diary this and dear diary that. Okay, guys, which book do you think it is? I read from you the answer, possible answers. Come on. Thanks for my kiddos. Already got all the Diary of Wimpy Kid books. Those made me feel as a kid again. With the Diary of Wimpy Kid books, you can make an interesting activity, compare them with the movies about them. Very good, Leonardo, I love it. Diary of Wimpy Kid. Very good, Claudia. Janice, Diary of Wimpy Kid. Okay, everybody guess. It was very explicit. Good. Let's go to the next. Okay, older teens and adults. There is a big controversy about people saying, but storytelling works for all older teens and adults. Why not? There is a bit, we have to be realistic as well. There's going to be something of a difficulty because of the age. They don't want to use their imagination, screens all the time, cell phones, smartphones, video games, computers, etc., movies, blah, 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 blah. So they don't like to read, some of them. But if you do a very good storytelling, they're going to be amazed. Any story you tell them can become the focus of some meta-narrative discussion. We're going to discuss about this. And they will almost certainly enjoy analyzing the story with you. What do I mean? Story must be relevant to the reality. Something, they don't like fairy tales anymore, stories. Princess, prince, no, the stories, they're not for them in this moment. So the reality, that's why I chose one of the classics, and I love this about American literature, of Mice and Men. Yes, if you have read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, please do it. It's like the books you have to read before you die. Real world of fiction stories. A fiction story, but based on the real, like younger ones. That's why I chose Game of Thrones. Yes, it's a fiction, but it's based on reality. Yes, we don't have kingdoms in this moment. I mean, yes, we do, but not in, like they show us. And we don't have dragons and we don't have those things, but we have government and we have many issues they show in the book. It's fiction, but it's based on reality. Interested in metacognition process and meta-discussion to create controversy. They need that. They need that raw material. If you give that raw material, you're going to make your class very dynamic. Action, and they're going to question you, and they're going to question the writer, and they're going to question the characters, and they're going to question the setting, they're going to question everything. I'm going to give you an example of is my top 5, is in my top 5 of my favorite books. I guess you can read, or you can guess. Please write it down if you know what I'm talking about. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled to his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victory mansions, though not quickly enough to prevent a swirl of gritty dust from entering unknown with him. The flat was 7 flights up, and Winston was 39, almost like me, and had a varicose ulcer above his right ankle, went slowly, rested several times on the way. On each landing, opposite the lift shaft, the poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures which are so contrived that the eyes follow you about when you move. Big Brother is watching you. The caption beneath it ran. Okay, let's see who guessed which book is Patrick Compton, 1984. Very good. Humans excel at visual imagery. For our brains evolve the ability to create an internal mental picture, what Clemenza said, or model of the world in which we can rehearse forthcoming actions without the risk or penalties of doing them in the real world. Imagery appeals to the 5 senses. Always. Imagination depends everything, all the senses. And I'm going to give you a personal example. Gandalf the Grey, the Lord of the Rings. My dear uncle, Pat, he gave me this book and I devoured it. And then I watched the movie. And the way that I imagined Gandalf the Grey was the same in the movie and in the book. It was awesome. I was very excited, very happy to see that. That my image was the same of the director of Mr. Jackson. So that's very good. Imagery is very important. It's very literature, vocabulary, but it's very important. A good book must have this, must have imagery almost all the time. Very, very powerful. It's a very, very powerful tool. Good. Understanding stories is about creating images. What I just told you. George Orwell, the author of 1984 of Animal Farm, is one of my favorite authors for that, for creating images of for you in your head. They get popped, they get here, and you can see and you can feel what I read to you about the cold April day. I felt chill. So it's very important that, okay? Look, I found this on the web. Storytelling, and I love this picture because it summarizes what is storytelling. If you see, on top is thought, in the middle point is storytelling, middle point, I mean big, and the final outcome, only 3 steps. But all the storytelling takes a big percentage of everything. Storytelling is part of us, is in our genetic, is in our guts, in our heart, in our mind, in our soul. So all the time, pay attention to this very simple example. You talk to your wife, girlfriend, whoever you want. How was your day? And if the person wants to tell about the day with detail, they're doing storytelling. And they're going to, and you as a listener, you're going to pay attention and you're going to remember, and then they're going to tell you when they go to to a meeting from your work. You're the boss of Luis Fernando. Caroline, my husband, talk about you wonders, and it's a pleasure to meet you, etc. And you can get connected with that person without knowing that person, or the situation, or the place, or whatever. It's the same. I wish to travel all around the world. One of my favorite parts to go is, one of my dreams is to go to Israel. I have read about Israel. I have the images here. Of course, it's going to be more astonishing when I see them with my own eyes, but I already have the image here, okay? Because of storytelling. Storyteller. Now we're going to go to you guys, the important part of storytelling. This is a picture on oil canvas from the 19th century. It's called the Dutch Storyteller. Imagine, fire, so we can infer it's almost winter. The young guy is telling, look, they chose role play differently. The young guy is telling the story. Meanwhile, look, the elders are paying attention. And I guess his brother is not happy. His face is not so happy, but the rest of the people are very interested. That's what is a good storyteller. I've discovered through my 50 years of teaching that teacher is not a teacher. It doesn't just teach a subject. It's a storyteller, it's a clown, it's a magician, it's a psychologist, it's so many things that at the same time, sometimes we leave behind storytelling, okay? As Patrick says in this moment, storytelling is basic to all subjects. I agree. Teachers by nature were storytellers. Humans by nature are storytellers. One thing is to know how to tell the story in a good way so we catch the attention, we send a hook so we can try and bring the students with us. Bowman is something we should apply within every day, just like our ancestors did. Very good. Good. Okay. Storytelling is essential in language learning. I mean, even though you're not telling a story per se, I mean, you're explaining a topic. And what I did in my class, in literature class, North American literature class, is I connected history with literature. It's a must, I might say. So the students may get the idea in their heads, the imagery start flowing and start going on and etc. So every time, even though you explain something about grammar, which is boring, in my opinion, you have to tell a story. When you tell a story, you gain the control of your students' attention. And you create a strong affinity between learners and language, okay? All the time. Through listening to stories together, through sharing our story with other people and listening to other people's stories, that we co-create a social web of relationships. Storytelling or stories are a part of human society. We connect with the stories. Storytelling develops the language. In what sense? Reading skills. Students who like stories are likely to become vivid readers. That happened to me. When I told you about my uncle Pat, he told me about the Lord of the Rings. He was very smart, and he's a smart guy. And he told me the story, just a superficial line. And he hooked me into that story. And then he gave me the books. And then I devoured those books. And they are my treasure. Those books are my treasure in this moment. Second, exposed to language without any complaint, especially to those valuable language chunks and or lexile phrases when we start connecting ideas. This is an important mental process that paves the way to understanding, processing, and remembering language. Many parents read to their little ones, to the babies' stories. They're doing that in that moment. The thing is, the babies are not going to complain if the story is boring or is cool or is whatever. They're not going to say, because they don't know how to communicate. But they're in their heads, they're taking those chunks of phrases, and then with time, they're going to say one word, and then they're going to start adding to the chunks. Writing skills, without doubt. The more lexical grammatical strings of words they store in their long-term memory, pay attention, long-term memory, in a natural way, the better their own production will become. When a story caught you, what are you going to do? You're going to write, you're going to think about the story or about the movie, or about, it doesn't matter what, but it's going to be in your head all the time then. Rolling and rolling and rolling, and sometimes to stop rolling, you start writing, and that's a very good exercise for them. Food for thought. This is one of the things I defend the most, and I'm, if I may say, an ambassador for this. Storytelling enhances critical thinking. I think critical thinking is the basic thing for any educational and knowledge purpose. If you have critical thinking, you can understand whatever you want. It doesn't matter the topic. And creative thinking skills. I want to share with you this short video. I don't know if you have seen it. Carmen Janetsky says, sorry for the interruption. Storytelling is a big treasure for the human beings. Storytelling is the inheritance for humanity. Very good, beautiful. If we go, and if I may, a little bit, say 2 minutes, 1 minute, I'm sorry, 1 minute. The elder people in other cultures are very wise, even though some of them don't know how to write or to read, but they're very wise. And they got that wisdom from stories, experience. So I agree with you, Carmen. I'm going to share with you this video. Maybe you have seen it. Actually, it's a TikTok. It's a fashion thing now. And actually in the United States, they're going to ban it, but that's another story. Just pay attention. Let's hope you can listen to it.
Can I tell you a story? So I went outside and I took a poop. And then I saw a squirrel. And then I went to Grandma's. Went to Grandpa's.
Okay. Storytelling is a big impact for humans. Look, for a dog, it is. Even though there's a big, we can have a big discussion if they understand, if it's a TikTok or whatever. But when you talk to a dog, I believe they understand. So imagine what can they do to human. It doesn't matter the age. That's one of the things I want to clarify. It doesn't matter the age of your students or of your kids, I mean, if my dad is going to read to me a story, oh my God, I'm 40 years old, and my dad or my mom does it, I'm going to be blew off. It's going to be awesome for me because it's amazing. It's to use, it's going back to your childhood, is going to that part that you love a lot. Angelica Maria says to us, yes, I think we have lost our heritage that build different cultures around the world. We can take it back in the classrooms. I agree with you 100%. Even the simplest thing, you can teach them. Are stories vehicles for implicit learning? Or do they provide raw material for an explicit focus on language? I read to you. I want to see some answers. Okay, Courtney can say both. Okay, good. Someone else? Remember that sometimes the stories, they're going to teach us some in an indirect way, many things that we don't pay attention to it. I mean, consciously, but it's going to be on our heads and our long-term memory. So yes, everybody says 50-50, both the people who are writing, I agree. And they provide raw material for an explicit focus on language. I mean, guys, come on, I'm going to do this invitation to you, not as a teacher, not as teachers, not as educators, as human beings. Tell stories with some bit of knowledge, not just gossiping. Gossiping is a storytelling, but sometimes gossiping is hollow, nothing. Okay, just to have a good time, which we need as human people. We need our brain to have oxygen from different things. But come on, use. Angelica, I think both. You can use stories for both purposes. Even you can start by implicit and then starting pointing out the explicit. Very good, I agree. It gives you time to picture the story in your head. Good. That was Maria Flores. Carmen, as teacher, we can approach teaching in many ways. We have infinitive ways. Catherine, I think there are both of them. Students can create great stories and we can teach lessons using them. But the students can teach us through stories. Okay? So yeah, agree. Good, very good. We are very connected today, guys. I'm very pleased to have that. Finally, I want to share this this quote from you from Isaac Bashevis Singer. He was a Jewish Polish American writer. He was born in Poland. He was Polish, but then he became American, and he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1978. Very good writer. Awesome. A classic one. And I think the Americans take pride of this good writer. When a day passes, it is no longer there. What remains of it? Nothing more than a story. If stories weren't told or books weren't written, man would live like the beasts, only for the day. Today we live, but tomorrow, today will be a story. The whole world of human life is one long story. Ivy Singer, Naphtali from the story, and his horse, Zeus. Finally, I want to share you the books I used for this awesome webinar. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a great time. I enjoyed 100%. Story-based language teaching, writing stories, once upon a time, doing stories. How to narrate a story? Daniel Hernandez, very good question. I try my best when I narrate the story. You have to get into the flesh and bones, and you have to get in the skin and walk with it of the characters. What do I mean? Get into it. You have to love that story. So then you can act it, do different voices like for little kids, and try to act and mimic, move your hands, etc., etc. It's very good to start narrating practice. You know what is a good exercise? I've done it. Practice in front of a mirror. Check yourself. Tell to your kids. Narrate a story to your kids. Even though it's something you're creating, that's a better thing. I'm going to the stand-up comedy, the comedians, they do it like that. They start creating the stories, or any person, a storyteller. It doesn't matter what. So I invite you to do it. Gustavo Riveros, in what way do you transform you in the best storyteller with your students or kids? Look, Gustavo, it's the thing, you have to believe in the story. You have to be passionate about the story. You have to get into the character, like an actor. I invite you to do it. I mean, if your kid love, I don't know, Toy Story, and you want to be a Woody, dress up like a cowboy. Yes, for the little kids, it's very good. Thank you, Catherine, to you. Okay, thank you a lot. And before you leave, I want to show you commercial. 45% off in readers in nationwide, in Medellin, Cali, Barranquilla, and Bogota, and in our web page as well. It applies. And find the B webinars in our YouTube channel. There are all of them there, the ones that we have done by the moment. So I invite you to subscribe, please subscribe, make it bigger and bigger so we can put more material in it. Wait, we have Claudia and the QA. Students like to be read to. However, I find that they don't like to write so much. How do we get them to acquire a love for writing in their own stories? Actually, my next webinar is going to be about writing skills, but Claudia, I can tell you, use all the tools that you have. Use songs, short videos, a movie, a book, a poem, a short, I don't know, a newspaper article from a magazine, and tell them, write to me about, and give them a clear question, okay? Then they're going to start doing it, because this is like going to the gym. You have to get stronger. Cristina Borda, storytelling should be used in bilingual context, not just as an English teacher. I agree. It can be used in science, math, social studies, history, geography, what I'm missing, physics, chemistry. I mean, it doesn't matter. There is no boundaries. Information technology, computers. Oh my God, I can continue telling you, but there is no limit about this. So, very good. Thank you very much again. I appreciate this time you have given to me. I appreciate it a lot. I hope I did a good job for you. I hope you disconnect a little bit from your busy day. God bless you. Thank you. Follow our social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and visit our webpage. One very good thing. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening. Bye.